Hello, and thank you for attending today's training. My name is Nurse Ivy, and I will be going over the mindfulness technique. The objective of this training is to provide you with information necessary for using the mindfulness technique. But before we get into the mindfulness technique, I would like to review exactly what depression is and how the mindfulness technique of PEACE, PEACE, can help you in the management of the negative thoughts that come along with depression. Just for generic information, depression results from a combination of social, psychological, and biological events. Individuals who have gone through traumatic events such as unemployment, a death of a loved one, or imprisonment are likely to develop depression. Most importantly, left untreated and unmanaged, depression may lead to suicide. Oftentimes, people who are depressed deal with a lot of negative thoughts, feelings about themselves, and this can easily cause them to slide back into depressive relapse. It is so critical for you to take your prescribed medicines as the doctor has recommended, and many of you are. However, there are other techniques that can assist in addition to the management, in addition to the treatment of the medication. The technique that can help you in the treatment of your depression is the mindfulness technique. And mindfulness technique allows you to focus on the present moment and not allow your mind to wander on past or events in the future. Mindfulness focuses your attention on what's happening in the now, and it allows you to absorb the situation, think about how you're going to respond to it, but not make assumptions about your overall person of character. It focuses your attention on what's happening and a resolution. It means paying attention in a particular way. It's on purpose, it's in the present moment, and you're not judging yourself. The goal is to notice your thoughts and to let them go. So in summary, the purpose or objective of this training is to provide you with the necessary information for using the mindfulness technique. And we want to use the mindfulness technique when we're experiencing a negative thought. So now I would like for you to take a moment and write down what mindfulness means to you. In the beginning of the class, I passed out a sheet that has mindfulness written at the top. And at this time, I would like for you to go ahead and jot down what mindfulness means to you. Okay. As mentioned earlier, negative thoughts may often arise, and it's important that you address these right away and you don't hold on to them. Negative thinking is finding the worst about everything. You may even start to focus on the worst possible scenarios from your actions before you even do them. And that's not helpful at all because you're focused on things that haven't happened. One negative thought continues to have a negative thought and a negative thought, and pretty soon you're back in a depressive state. So I want to review some common negative thought patterns. If you recognize the patterns, then it really may help you recognize that you're having a negative thought and that you need to act accordingly. Some negative thoughts are all or nothing. You have to do things perfectly because anything that isn't perfect is automatically a failure. The next thought is disqualifying the positives. Life feels like one disappointment after another. Or you can have negative self-labeling. I feel like a failure. I'm flawed. If people knew the real me, they wouldn't like me. Catastrophizing. If something is going to happen, it's probably the worst case scenario. Even myself, I oftentimes have negative thoughts that could easily fall into this category. So I want to show you how this mindfulness technique can help you address these negative thoughts. Okay. So, oftentimes with depression, you may start to think negatively about yourself or about the future. Mindfulness helps you to be more aware of these thoughts, stand back, observe the negative thought, and then let it pass. Okay. Mindfulness can help you deal with difficult times. For instance, finding out that your loved one isn't going to be able to come and visit you this weekend, or your sentencing, something has gone wrong with your parole or you didn't get it. Maybe you find out that one of your children has gotten sentenced and will be in the same institution that you'll be in, or just a death in the family. Now I want you to take a minute and think about how mindfulness may be used in your own personal life, and list them below on the same sheet in which you listed your own personal definition of what mindfulness means to you. So we're here. What are my negative thoughts? All right. Just know, if you remember to use mindfulness, it can really help you in a difficult situation. All right. So now I'm going to go over the peace technique. And I really want you to focus your attention on what I'm doing, because afterwards you're going to do it. We're going to do it one-on-one, and I'm going to have you follow the technique. Okay, if you have any questions, I ask that you hold them to the end of the demonstration, and then we can go over any of those questions. And then after that, we'll meet one-on-one, and I can watch you perform the peace technique. Okay, so what I want you to do right now is think about a recent event that led to a negative thought. And hold on to those thoughts. If you have to write them down, then jot them down really quickly. Remember, your thoughts will not be shared with anyone. We're just learning the technique as a group, but we will meet individually to go over how you perform the technique on your own. So I will be working with you after the group discussion or the group lecture. All right, so close your eyes and think about a recent event that led to a negative thought. So I'm going to give you a few moments to think about a negative thought. I already have my negative thought. And like I said, if you have to jot it down, then jot it down. Take a minute, close your eyes, and think about your negative thought. So, as I stated, I'm going to perform the peace technique for how to deal with the negative thought. And then we'll go over any questions that you may have. And then we'll meet individually to see how well you can demonstrate using the technique on the thought that you just had a moment to think about. Okay, I started off. Here we go. So recently, I paid off my car, and I came outside because I heard a lot of noise going on, and it turns out that some dogs had chased a cat underneath the car, and these were like two huge dogs, and they tore into the side of my car, and it's a lot of body work damage. It's a mess. A lot of deep scratches, and the negative thought from this event was, every time something good happens to me, something bad happens. Like, I can't ever have one good thing happen without a negative thing to follow. So I'm going to use the peace technique. The first thing to do for the peace, P-E-A-C-E, is the P, which is to pause. After I had this negative event, instead of me dwelling on, oh, life is horrible for me, nothing ever goes right, I should have just paused, stopped, and realized that things can be difficult, that there are difficult times. And then, once I realize that I'm having a difficult moment, I need to just exhale. The next step in the peace technique is E for exhale. It's really simple. You just let out a sigh. You can groan. You can even cry. This is your time to have a physical, positive response to the thought. Instead of self-harming, cutting, or any of these type of behaviors, it's just good to let out a simple groan or a simple whatever you need to do that's positive to help you get through the situation. Okay. After you exhale, you just keep breathing normally. And if you have to do it maybe a few more times, then do that as well. Okay, when you're ready, you need to acknowledge. So this actual next step is a 3-part process. You're going to continue to breathe, but you're going to acknowledge the situation. Doesn't mean that you have to be happy about it. It just means that you recognize the situation for what it is, whether you like it or not. Instead of me just dwelling on how things don't always go well for me or what that means in the future, after I pause, after I exhale, what I should next do is say, you know what, I'm really mad about my car. I worked so hard to pay it off, but I'm not happy about what just happened. But I had no control over the dogs, but I'm really disappointed that my car is damaged. The next thing is to, after I accept the situation and the fact that I'm upset, and it's okay to be upset, frustrated, devastated, heartbroken, however, then you're just going to allow your experience. Notice when you're tempted to suppress how you feel or create additional drama by rehashing things in your head. And if you have to, just smile through it. See if you can discover a middle of the way. And what that means is you control your thoughts without the thoughts controlling you. So you're focusing your attention on the actual thought itself. You're recognizing how you feel about it. You're accepting that. You're not placing a judgment on having these types of emotions that come as a result of the thoughts. But you're going to just say, you know what, I'm still in control of this situation, even though the situation was something that I could control. Even if I could control it, I'm in control of the thoughts that I'm having. I'm not allowing my thoughts to go off in the field or any of that. I'm focusing my mind on the actual issue itself. C is for choose. Now, this is a pretty important step because when you have a negative thought, you have to choose when you're ready to think about how you will respond. For instance, what I should have done was, hey, this thing, it happened to me. I'm upset about it, but you know what? I'm going to do something about the fact that wild dogs from the community can come into my yard, and just jump on my car. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to buy some steaks and put them in the yard where there are gaps in the fence so the dogs that can't come through. And I'm going to work with someone later on after I saved up my money to actually get a new fence. And that's how this situation can go. Keep in mind that certain negative thoughts may not be able to have a right now type of fix. Some negative thoughts are so deeply rooted or are so extraneous or so difficult to undertake. You actually need a process in order to really choose your plan of action for how you want to positively handle the situation. Think about what it is that you want to gain from the experience. What are your limits? My limit is my budget. Like I can't fix the fence right now, but what I can do is try to repair the broken parts of the fence, and so I save up for the actual new fence. And then I'm going to have compassion on myself. I couldn't control the situation. These are dogs that just roam the community. They were doing naturally what dogs are doing. What they do, they chase cats. And I'm not going to blame myself for what happened. I'm going to focus on the situation. My car is now damaged, and that is the situation. And I'm going to choose to repair the fence, try to keep the dogs out. This type of thinking is positive because it comes up with a resolution on how I handle the thought. When you're not mindful and your thoughts tend to be random and go all over the place, you never come up with a solution. You oftentimes think of other negative events and you don't focus on the here and the now. Mindfulness is to help you positively think through a negative thought, because you're going to have negative thoughts. You have to accept that as a human being, there are things that are going to happen, maybe more so than other people's lives, and you have to be able to respond to those healthy. So once I've done P for pause, E for excel, A for acknowledge, C for choosing, E is engage. And this is the last step in the peace technique. And what it means is I'm ready to engage with people, the situation, with life. Because the first step is to pause. When you pause, it's like you're almost stopping time. You're pausing yourself for right there in the moment. You're living right there in the moment. Now you have to make a conscious decision after you've done all the steps to re-engage yourself. But the beauty in that is that you're actually taking time out of your day to really deal with something that, if left unchecked or ignored, can spiral to other more serious negative thoughts in which you may not respond favorably. It's all about seizing the thought, taking ownership of it, not beating yourself up for it, coming up with a solution, and then letting that go and moving forward. Because if you're human, you're going to have more negative thoughts. It's a way of training the mind to work in a positive way. And it's so crucial if you've been diagnosed with depression to learn how to handle your negative thoughts so that you won't relapse and go into depressed state. So just to review, the P is to pause. The E is to excel. The A is to acknowledge. And in this step, what you want to do is think about all your reactions. I'm furious, I'm mad, I'm devastated, I'm jealous. Think about all of that stuff. And then, own it. Don't suppress it. Don't go and fixate on it. But just own it. Really think about how it makes you feel. Process those emotions. And then you want to choose. You want to see. That's for choose. Take a few minutes, a few weeks, a month. Be honest with yourself. How long do I think I'm going to need? But be fair, but also be honest with yourself. And then when you're ready, it's time to get back to the swing of things. I need to think about my life and other things that are going on. And I'm not going to go back to this negative thought. You have to be committed to say, I've dealt with this thought. I've done everything I could do in the moment of having that thought. Now it's time for me to move on. All right. So at this time, I'm going to have you to review your sheet. Think about your negative thought, and then we're going to meet individually so that I can observe you using the peace technique and going through your own negative thoughts. Thank you.